Hello, my little Luxxes. Welcome to another episode of Coffee and Cosplay, and I am your host, cosplayer Charsie Luxxx. And of course, as usual, I am still dressed in my cosplay for my movie review. Actually, no, you should be seeing this one first. Yeah, even though I am filming this second, you will see this one before my movie review of The Sand. So you have that to look forward to. But today, we of course are going to be talking about my cat scratching on the door. Dina! Yeah, it's not Callie this time. Dina, come here! I got both my girls in here with me today. They won't help. They're never helpful, just so you know. They're just cute. Anyway, but we are going to be on theme for tan lines to chalk lines for Coffee and Cosplay. Is this Coffee and Cosplay number 9? I can't remember what number this is, but we're going to be enjoying my coffee of I came, I saw, I made it awkward. Sums me up probably perfectly. As you've probably been getting to know me, those that have been around for how long I have been Charsie Luxxx, and that I am an introvert extrovert. That I'm very odd. I can talk very well when it comes to typing online and conversing with people. In person, if I don't know who you are, I am extremely shy. I have to get comfortable around people before I start opening up and talking and being myself. I probably need to go open that door and let the cat out, so give me 1 second, I'll be right back.
A few moments later.
But I have been using the opportunity that Coffee and Cosplay is my way of just talking about myself, things that have happened to me in my life. Well, I should say to me and my husband in our lives, because he's been with me for almost 18 years now. We are celebrating our 18-year anniversary or date-aversary in May, so very, very soon that is coming. But I figured that on brand with my theme for tan lines to chalk lines, and the fact that it was spring break related college parties and that kind of stuff, that I could talk about something that is similar to it. Unfortunately, I have never experienced the spring break party type idea. Never did that. Aww. I mean, you would go home for spring break and that kind of stuff, but we'd literally use it like that it was a break. You were back at home with your parents, just spending the time with them, because it was also around Easter time, so you're with family. But my husband and I never did the whole, hey, let's go do a spring break somewhere, and never did that whole thing. But my husband and I have done tailgating at our old four-year university. And yeah, it would be the typical idea of a huge party get-together. So this would have been at the point in time when we were going to school at NIU and we lived in DeKalb. Now, we lived in a townhouse with another couple. Now, mind you, my husband and I really didn't want to move in with this other couple because this was my good friend, Bree. Bree, as big of a sweetheart as she could be, unfortunately, she wasn't trustworthy when it came to her relationships because she was very known for cheating on the boyfriend she was with, not being satisfied, getting into uncomfortable fights with them. So my husband and I really didn't feel comfortable moving in with Bree and her boyfriend, or I should say her boyfriend at the time. Because obviously you can tell where this story is going to end up going.
No, don't like that.
It's relevant to bring this up because it is tied to our homecoming story, or a homecoming party, tailgate party story. You've heard me talk about Brie before, so her then boyfriend Todd talked us into moving into this townhouse with him, and Brie assured me and my husband to our faces that everything was amazing between her and Todd, because I kept saying to her, I'm like, I don't feel comfortable moving in with you. And of course she would make me feel guilty, like, well, why don't you want to move in with me? Do you not trust me? And I flat out told her and was upfront and said, I don't know how good yours and Todd's relationship is, because what happens if we move in with you and we're all splitting rent and that, and you decide to break up, and then it's just awkward, it's fighting, and we don't want to deal with that. And she reassured me to my face, everything is amazing between me and Todd. He said he didn't kiss her. Liar! And it would be amazing for us all to live together. And she just kept reassuring me that her and Todd were super happy and everything was good, and this was the man she wanted to spend the rest of her life with. We all know where this story is going.
No! God, please, no! No!
It goes in line with my cup. Well, once again, also because Brie is from my other coffee and cosplay story where I talked about Brie, who said, awkward! I came, I saw, I made it awkward. That is also Brie to a T. So, how it ends up becoming awkward is that we moved in with them, reassured by her that they had an amazing relationship, and we're only about a month or two into living there, and it would have been about October, would have been the time for NIU's homecoming, and it was just about this time that Brie came to me and my husband and was telling us that she was unhappy with Todd and that she was thinking about leaving him.
Say what?
And of course, us wanting to be her friends, and I've known Brie my entire life and grew up with her, you want to be supportive of her, and just finding out from her what her opinions were. And obviously at the same time, in the back of my mind and in the back of my hubby's mind, we're both pretty upset with her as well. We didn't want to move into this townhouse with her. She reassured us everything was fine. We're literally only like a month and a half, 2 months into living in this townhouse with them and going to college. And it's not even the first year, it's the first semester. And she's already saying that she wants to break up with Todd.
What? What the fuck?
Ugh. We're trying to get them to work on things, because we're talking with her, finding out what's going on with the relationship, and it just sounds like simple things that as long as you have communication with your significant other, you should be able to work this shit out. And it was simple things, like she wanted more help around the house. She wanted him to spend maybe a little bit more time with her and less time on his video games and yada yada yada, the typical stuff, where we would discuss with her like, hey, maybe find a compromise. Maybe have him see if he's got some games that you could be included on. See if you want to play any of these games with them. Test it out. Okay, fine. Maybe if you don't want to play the games with him, maybe say, hey, have like an hour to play with your guy friends online, whatever you're doing, and then after that, hey, let's watch a movie together, or let's go out to dinner or whatnot. But you have to have that communication. You can't just sit in the back corner, stewing, being angry, and then later on blow up at that person, and they're just gonna fight you on it. They're not gonna listen, they're gonna shut down, and that's what kept happening between Brie and Todd. So, us trying to be helpful and everything, we think that they're finally working on things. They're kind of communicating. It also helped that my hubby was even able to talk to Todd as well and kind of let him know, hey, this is kind of what's going on. Maybe try like doing a little bit more around the house, help out Bree a little bit more, do stuff with her a little bit more. So that was helpful. So we're thinking everything's good, everything's peachy, when it's not. Like I keep saying, we know where this story is going. You have homecomings coming up, we're all getting excited, and we want to start inviting our friends because it's our first homecoming at NIU. We're excited. The Huskies football team has always been doing amazing, and we wanted to do tailgating. It's our first time tailgating. We do the whole shebang. We get a spot, we have our vehicles, we set up, we have the grill so we can barbecue, we got the silly bags game and other little things like a ring toss type idea, that we're just ready to have a great time with all of our friends and invite our friends along. Bree even has her sister come along because they're really close, and we're doing the whole celebration and having fun. One of these friends that Bree invites along is a guy friend from close to our hometown, our old original hometown. I'm not even 100% sure how she even met this guy, if it was through her church, or I should say her family's church. She invites him along, and right away we all kind of think it's weird because none of us know this guy, and he's tagging along. Well, he brings his 2 siblings along as well. And I tell you what, you want to talk about 3 siblings that someone needs to write like a book or a movie on these 3, because they are all 3 totally different in personality. All 3 look so different from each other as well. You had the oldest brother who was this big heavyset guy and very astute. He was smart, but he was so fucking weird at the same time, and you would feel awkward in a room with this guy. Then you had the middle child, who was the guy that Bree had invited. We will say his name is Alex. And Alex, being the middle child, was this athletic guy. He was very built and buff, had that very jock-like personality. So very different from his older brother. And then you had the youngest brother, who was tall, super skinny, lanky, had long hair, and he just was a goofy guy. Now, all 3 of these guys, when they were together, were hilarious. And it was one of those things where you couldn't tell they were siblings till they were together. And then all of a sudden it started making sense. And it's like, oh yeah, these are definitely brothers.
What's the idea of taking the ladder away?
Wait a minute, I didn't take the
Come on, get your things together, quick.
So it kind of became this funny little joke. Well, we're all kind of noticing, like we said, we weren't sure why Bree was inviting this random guy that none of us knew who he was, and we started noticing that she was hanging out with this Alex guy, and that she was ignoring Todd almost the entire time that this tailgating party was going on.
Awkward.
And it got very awkward very quickly. So we're all hanging out at the tailgate party and grilling out, hanging out with all these people. All of a sudden, you realize that shit is going down. Todd starts coming to me and asking me for advice, like, who is this guy? Who is this Alex guy? And who is his brothers? And I flat out looked at Todd and I'm like, I have no idea who these guys are. I have never been mentioned their names before this. I don't even know who they are. I'm like, Bree brought him up like just the day that we decided to create our little roster of making a list of friends that we wanted to invite. And all of a sudden, Alex's name was put on and Alex decided to show up with his brothers.
What is it? Pardon me, got any mice, insects, ants, or bugs you want exterminated?
So then it just starts feeling even more awkward because then we're realizing we're like, she intentionally invited this guy because she liked him. And she was totally into him, and you could tell she was because she was following this Alex guy. Well, you could tell what this Alex guy was doing, and he was trying to swoop in. And he was rubbing it in Todd's face. So, and of course, all of Todd's friends, his closest friends, are invited along and are watching this. Todd and his friends are hanging out in the living room and they're playing video games, while the rest of us had all went out to the local bar and were just hanging out and dancing because it was a little dance club / bar. And of course, after tailgating, after watching the game, and going and hanging out with everybody else at the bar in celebration because we won, so yay! Woo-woo! But anyway, not important or relevant, but Todd didn't go with his girlfriend. Alex went with Bree to the bar, and we're all kind of hanging out, and it just feels weird, it feels awkward. You can tell Bree is into this guy, she is all over him. My husband and I went back, and we didn't have Bree or anybody else with us. We just decided we were tired and wanted to go home. And Todd starts asking us 20 questions and just keeps going, and of course his buddies are all hanging out with him, and they're all obviously being good friends and saying, what the fuck is going on with your girlfriend? Why is she hanging out with this other guy? Why isn't she hanging out with you? Now, mind you, Bree, if she would have been doing the right thing, she would have had the whole communication with Todd that she was upset with him because of the fact that his plan was, after tailgating, that he was going to go with his friends and he was going to go back to the townhouse and they were going to play video games. He didn't want to go out to the bar dancing with the rest of us. And when Bree realized that, she decided that she was going to invite this other guy who she knew was going to go and dance with her. And yeah, they definitely danced together.
I mean, is she going for spring vacation or is she going for spring break?
So already we know exactly where things are going and that it's going to be a huge fight. And that's exactly what happens. I mean, Bree finally shows back up. She's got this Alex guy, and all of her friends are there. They're staying the night and are asleep in the living room along with Todd's friends. And everybody finally starts leaving for the night. Or I should say the next morning. Everybody starts leaving the next morning. And because we all got up, we had our breakfast, and we're hanging out in that, and you could just feel this weird tension, this awkward feeling, awkward silence and everything. And you know that typical saying that they say that you could cut it with a knife. That's how thick that tension was feeling in that house.
Man, you could cut the tension with a knife.
Do not make eye contact.
And you just could feel Todd's anger at the same time. And it's one of those things where it's like, I can look back on it now, and Todd's anger is very justified. And at the same time, I feel bad that my husband and I didn't intervene in a lot of this stuff, but at the same time, it's like there's not much that you can put input for, and that you really do have to make it not your business and butt out. And I could tell things to Bree, I could talk to her, but Bree is a pathological liar. And when you talk to her, she will tell you what you want to hear. So when I would have a conversation with her, her story would be a line for me. And then she would turn around and she would do the complete opposite of what she had informed me of. She would do the same shit with Todd. So obviously when everybody finally left and it was just us four left in the townhouse, the fight happens. And that's fight one. And that was the fight of Bree finally telling Todd that she wasn't in love with him anymore, she wasn't attracted to him, and she wanted to break things off. And she basically told Todd that she wanted him to move out of the townhouse because she was living with her friends and that she had every right to stay in the townhouse and that he had to leave. Well, Todd, of course, being like, where the hell am I supposed to go last minute? And he goes, that's completely unfair. I put just as much time and effort and money into being and living in this townhouse. I'm staying. So what ends up happening is they break up, have the big uncomfortable fight and everything, and Todd decides he's taking over the living room. And now the living room to our townhouse is now his bedroom. Now mind you, my husband and I, when we moved in with them, that since this was the townhouse that they had picked, they had wanted, and that we were just to tag along, that they decided they wanted the master bedroom. So they got the bigger room. And my husband and I got the tinier bedroom down in the basement. But at the same time, when we first got it, it's like, yeah, that's not that bad because I like that the bathroom was attached to the room. So wasn't that big of a deal at the time until the breakup and Todd took over the living room space, because then there was no more space anymore. My husband and I literally were shifted down to the basement at all times because you can't go up in the living room anymore to watch movies or to hang out or do anything because Todd revamped it into his bedroom. And so we were obviously very angry and cross with Bree, and we're like, what the fuck is going on? And she basically blamed us because we weren't sticking up for her and kicking Todd out. And we're like, this was your fault. And we even flat out told her, we said we didn't want to move in with you because something like this would happen, and she proved us right. And even after that, we had found out that not only was she in the process of wanting to break up with Todd, she had already been cheating on him back in the summertime. When my husband and I had first voiced our concerns to her, she was already cheating on him, and she kept reassuring us that everything was happy, hunky-dory.
Bitch, what?
My version of because of this situation, because of my one time that we had the let's go do a big party and have fun for tailgating, this is probably why we never had the spring break experience. I bet we would have if things actually had been a hunky-dory situation between Bree and her boyfriend Todd, because I'm sure we would have been like, hey, let's go down to Florida, let's do a spring break. But everything went downhill and kept getting worse and worse and worse.
It's so bad.
Like, I look back on it and I'm just like, those moments where I wish I would have looked at her and been like, I told you so.
Tell me this isn't the world's best I told you so.
This is why we didn't want to move in with you. And obviously Bree's one of those people where I'm not her friend anymore. We had tried again when we had disconnected after obviously the whole, and like I said, there's way more that happened in between everything. And I mean, Todd really wasn't a good guy in the end either, because it started off where my hubby and I were on his side. Well, then it's one of those things, I get it. He is still living in that situation, living in the townhouse with all of us, and Bree decided that she was going to start hooking up with people. And she was bringing guys to the townhouse and hooking up with them. But at the same time, there were nights that she was still hooking up with Todd. So I can understand where his anger would go from, because there was a night where Todd got home and he found condoms in the garbage and he blew up on Bree and got in a devastating domestic fight with her. And I am, to this day, still fucking pissed at him for laying hands on her. And I don't care what kind of situation you are in, you never lay hands on anyone. But that was one of those situations where they were both in the wrong. And it's one of those things where I can look back and look through it. I can see why everything that ended up happening happened. And unfortunately, my husband and I were not financially good in any way or form. We were college students, we were artists, we were poor. So we didn't have the option to just get out of this contract as well, because once you sign a contract, they literally have it in there that if you want out of it, you have to like back pay every single month, even if you're not going to be living there. And we just didn't have that opportunity. And I wish so badly that we would have just said fuck it and just moved out, because obviously once the domestic dispute and all that fucking shit happened, we were out. And because of that, we were able to get out way easier, because we were like, there's no fucking way we're living with this guy because he's a piece of shit. And the same thing with her. She was just as big of a piece of shit. Those two should never be in relationships whatsoever. Because of that situation, we were out. We were fucking out.
Run, bitch! Run!
And that's how we ended up living in the duplex apartment of my in-laws. So we had to commute to college. It was quite a long drive. Like, it was a 55-minute drive to class and then back. So Bree and I had reconnected years later when she reached out to me after my dad had passed away, and she showed up at his funeral. And of course, being vulnerable and sad and everything, and grateful to the people who reached out to me in such a devastating time, and reconnected with Bree. But Bree's Bree, and she didn't change, unfortunately. At first, she made it seem like she did, but we went down that path. And of course, you guys have heard me talk about Bree before. Bree is the one that, in my very first episode, that I talk about, and the friend that would gaslight me and my husband, make us feel like a bunch of piece of shits, and just was such a terrible friend. I always said in that one that I would talk about this story and this situation that had happened. And it's one of those things where it's like, it would have been such a fun, phenomenal day. Like, I have such fond memories from that tailgating party, hanging out with our friends, grilling, playing games, watching the game. It was rainy, it was a cold day, but we were all bundled up in our hats and our hoodies, and we were still just having such a great time. All of us going to the bar and dancing together and having a great time. But then you also have the other side of the spectrum that is just completely ruined and bad because of what happened, because of a very piss poor decision by Bree.
Emotional damage!
Well, this video is already way longer than I was anticipating it to be, and I want it to be very lighthearted. And I talk about this situation just because of the fact of how fucked up it is anyway. And maybe it can be some advice for any of you out there, especially if you are young and in your 20s and you're about to start college and you're thinking about moving into an apartment with your friends or anywhere with another couple. Trust your gut first instinct. If you're thinking in your head, especially when you know your friends, and it's like, you don't want to feel like that asshole, because me and my husband right away didn't want to move in with Bree because we're like, we know what she does. She cheats on all of her boyfriends. She gets unhappy very easily. She's very judgmental. She will ruin a relationship to get out of it. We should have trusted that gut instinct of, hey, we don't want to move in with you. And I don't care if your friend tries to make you feel guilty, and maybe even just lie to him and just say, hey, we had another opportunity come up, we're gonna take that instead. So we appreciate the offer, but no thank you. So I mean, it could be as simple as that, but yes, please trust your gut instinct. If you don't feel comfortable moving in with somebody, don't do it. Don't do it.
I warned you. I've done it again. I warned you, but did you listen to me? Oh, no, you know.
I don't care if they're your best friend or not, because it can also ruin a friendship, because obviously Brie and I are no longer friends anymore. And I should have trusted my instinct even that second time around when she came back into my life. And I mean, I want to have my friends in my life. I love everyone passionately, and I love being around people. And even though I'm an introvert, I do have my moments I don't want to be around people, but generally I really do love being out and about and meeting people, talking to people. Even if I'm uncomfortable about it, I still enjoy it, and it's something that I want to do. But I also need to learn to trust my inner voice when it tells me, hey, red flag.
Run away! Run away! Run away!
But yes, I hope you enjoyed this story. Like I said, I didn't tell this story to be on a negative note. And it happened how many years ago now? That happened back in 2009 to 2010. So that's how long ago that was. That, like I said, I can look back on it as a learning situation for myself. And I would love for it to give you a learning opportunity. So trust your gut instincts. And then that way you can actually have a spring break moment and go celebrate with your friends on the beach.
Spring break. Wait.
Like how I did that? But anyway, guys, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me here on another Luxxy Charms. No, not a Luxxy Charms. On another Coffee and Cosplay. And if you are new here, please like and subscribe. Welcome to the Luxxy family. And if you would like to follow me on my other social medias, come follow me on my Twitter for Charsie Luxxx with 3 X's, or on my Instagram for Charsie87. And once again, I am the afterlife of the party. And I hope that no matter what you are doing today, you have a fantastic Luxxy Charms kind of day. Bye! Come here! Come here, Athena. Come here, baby. Callie's staring at me.
I'm jealous. How dare you say Athena?
Come here. Oh. Ooh. Spilled my coffee. Means not spill my coffee.
Success. Success. Success.